Welcome to the Well-Seasoned Librarian podcast. I'm your host, Dean Jones. This is season 8, episode 16. And I am very honored to be rebroadcasting my conversation with Mariana Nuño Ruiz McEnroe and her husband, Ian McEnroe, who I love dearly and who are just amazing authors who produced this wonderful book, Dining with the Dead. Dining with the Dead is a fantastic book, and it would be easy to think on the face of it that it was just a book about the Day of the Dead. And it is about the Day of the Dead, but it is about so many other things too. It is a cookbook. It is a book about the tradition of the Day of the Dead, Dios de los Muertos. It is about Mexican cuisine, a very good book about Mexican cuisine. I think it rivals that of Rick Bayless and Diana Kennedy. I really think it's an amazing cookbook, and it's just one of the best. Honestly, it's one of the best. I really prize this book, not only for its writing content, but for the wonderful, just gorgeous, lush photographs in the book. I often been tempted to want to just rip the pages out and eat some of them, and I'm not convinced they wouldn't be good to eat because they're so well done. I just think it's a great book. I was jokingly saying to the authors that when I die, I want it to be placed on my my chest when I'm buried. And I'm only half kidding, really, because if I was to take a book with me to the grave, I'd want to take this one. I know this sounds like hyperbole, but you know, when you love a book, you love a book, and it's just a great book. It just really, hands down, accessible, usable, lovable, everything good, all good things. And then we have the whole thing about Mariana and Ian being just great, fun people to talk to. You feel like you've known them for 20 years. It just, when you talk to them, they're just great people. I love them. They're great. I hope I get to meet them one day because they were just so wonderful to talk to. So that gushing aside, I hope you listen to this rebroadcast of my conversation with Ian and Mariana. Hope you have a really great day today. It's the Day of the Dead. You know, in my tradition, we like to say, what is remembered lives. And I got to honor many dead this last weekend, and we have altars up for our dead, as we do every year. We usually put out food and drinks for them, and it's serious business. We're not just doing it to be kitschy or fun. And it's a big part of our family tradition, and we love our dead, and we honor them, and it's very serious stuff. But also, we do it with love, and we do it with fun. We do it with a sense of passion that comes from, you know, getting to do this year after year and looking forward to it because we get to talk and tell stories and they become alive again. So enough of my babbling. I'm going to take you to my conversation with Mariana and Ian McEnroe and our conversation about their book, Dining with the Dead. Welcome to the Well-Seasoned Librarian podcast. This is Dean Jones, the Well-Seasoned Librarian, and today I'm very honored to have on my program Mariana Nuño Ruiz and Ian McEnroe, who've written the book Dining with the Dead, A Feast for the Souls on the Day of the Dead. Mariana and Ian, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, Dean.
So I wanted to ask you, for our listeners who are not very familiar with your work, can you tell them a little bit about yourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. This is Ian. I'm the photographer who created the photos in the book and a co-author who also participated in the writing. I'm a photo teacher and consultant and an artist with a background in fine arts. And yeah, I was really excited to work on this project with my wife, Mariana.
And I'm Mariana McEnroe. My maiden name, Nuño Ruiz. I'm from Mexico. I study and grew up there. I was an architect, and then I decided to study culinary arts, and so now I'm an architect. My second career, obviously, culinary arts. I develop recipes. I'm the art director of the book. Also, all the recipes and development and research about the book was done by me.
What was the inspiration for writing your book, Dining with the Dead?
It was a way to share the Mexican culture through food and exploring a really truly beloved tradition in Mexico.
It was an opportunity to portray my Mexico, my culture, in a very honest and sincere way, you know, through history, origins, memories, learning from research and from people, and overall, like experiencing the living the tradition in Mexico.
Now, you both have a blog called Yes More Please. Can you talk about your blog?
Sure. We created this blog in 2013 just to combine our interest in photography, my recipes, and my cooking. And it was honestly an outlet for our creativity. And we share recipes, stories. We always wanted the blog to have like a extra points that when you see a recipe online, you also could learn a technique or know about an ingredient or a background story of the recipe. So that was our motive. And all the recipes are photographed by Ian, and step by step, because for me it was very important that people had the certainty that the recipe was going to come out just like as the pretty photo. It wasn't just like a pretty photo. You knew that from start to finish you were going to be guided to make the recipe possible. And it was also trying to inspiring people of how to cook at home. We also included some music pairings.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah, it features a lot of content that's kind of personal to us, but yeah, the goal in terms of like the way we approached blogging was to present something that an individual could scratch cook who may or may not have a great deal of cooking experience, because some of the recipes are basic and some are more sophisticated, a little more complex. But we approach everything as if, at each step of the way, if we could avoid confusion and illustrate a method or an ingredient and a preparation style, we did it. So it's it was very time consuming to put a post up the way we do it.
Yeah.
Took a week because the whole process we wanted to document it rather than kind of toss people the final result and say, well, I hope you can work this out from the way we wrote it, because that's the real trick in food blogging in terms of like recipes, I think.
Did you have any trouble finding a publisher for the idea, or was it pretty easy to find somebody that would take the idea and let you do what you wanted to do?
Well, in fact, we were approached by our publisher. So the editor saw one of our online recipes about pan de muerto and the Dia de Muertos tradition that had been aggregated.
Yeah, it was on some third-party site or something, but
BuzzFeed.
Yeah, it was BuzzFeed, and they had done it with permission, and that led him to our site, where he was able to, get the idea of the kind of work we prefer to do, and then he approached us about collaborating on a Dia de Muertos cookbook, because he thought it would be a good theme, and we agreed that if we could put in more than just a few recipes and things like that, we wanted it to be a real account of the holiday, and we agreed that would be the approach to the book.
Well, yes, I mean, our editor Aaron Downey, he came with the idea of making a book about Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead. But we knew that it was not going to be able to be just a regular cookbook with just recipes about Dia de Muertos because how Dia de Muertos works. So we knew that we proposed that the book needed to have history, origins, and more about the tradition itself, the culture, and the gastronomy aspect, in order to be a complete book of the tradition. So, and they accepted it. I mean, they say yes, and we just started our journey.
The pandemic has been really hard on publishing. You published this during a time when, you know, a lot of publishers were hard hit. Did it have any effects on the publishing of the book? Like, I know that there was a Kickstarter for this. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, the Kickstarter was something that initially we were not, you know, even prepared for, because at the point when we had finished all the work on the book and it was ready to be printed, that was exactly the point when the pandemic shut everything down. So we had entirely finished the project, and as far as we were concerned, they were just going to print it and release it at that stage. But after a full year of being in lockdown, the publisher was operating at a fraction of their full potential, and of course, you know, they'd lost all this revenue, and it was going to be a very expensive proposition to create the book and print it. And that's what inspired our editor to move ahead with a Kickstarter. And we basically got on board with that, invited all our friends and family and supporters and blog followers and all the kind folks in the world who had an interest in the project. And yeah, we were blessed by a whole lot of very, very supportive people who helped fund it.
Yes, like we got involved on all the designing, the swags and the rewards. We designed like a stickers, a bandana, a bookmark. We printed some of the photos that were in the book, a collage, you know, as a way to provide incentives for the campaign. And also, well, once the campaign launched, it was extremely extremely anxious and stressful time, you know, because we didn't know. Kickstarter works all or nothing, so, and it gives you 30 days, and so we just started, you know, at the same time, a lot of positivity fueled by the response of our friends and family, and even people we didn't know. When they read about the project, they were excited about it. So that started to give us, you know, confidence, and we just start contacting everyone and everywhere that we could, you know, get a hold of it, and emails to everybody, from bookstores, libraries, museums, teachers, friends of friends.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who were able to pitch in, and it was even got to an international level where there were people from you know, overseas countries that were really excited about it. And initially we weren't going to be able to, you know, get books to them, but we worked it out, and people in Germany, Denmark, Canada, Australia, Mexico. So we were very, very excited to get all the support, and certainly it was a very new experience for us, because we'd never crowdfunded anything before, and hadn't really had any experience with it. But yeah, we were luckily very, very well supported, so we got funded and then some at our goal level, plus a little extra.
What was it like for you to see the book when you finally got the copies sent to you after it was published? It must have been like a wonderful experience for you to see your photography and your writing in this new book for yourself. What was that like?
Oh, it was startling, I think. When we got it, you know, a single copy was mailed to us that had been, you know, pressed and was ahead of the the regular shipment coming from the printer overseas. So when we received this one book, it was, you know, the culmination of basically a 5-year project.
Wow.
That we'd spent all our spare time, efforts, and resources creating. And yeah, there's a video. There's a video of us on Instagram opening the book, because we went ahead and filmed it, and
we wanted to share the experience at the first moment we saw the book with, you know, with all our supporters and our families and friends. You know, we thought it was just fair to them.
Because it was like you know, not to diminish, you know, childbirth, but it was somewhat analogous to having all that, you know, enter the world from essentially, you know, the digital format that it had been in while it was in process. Because, you know, we didn't have galleys or anything to look at, or a hard copy at all prior to the print.
No.
So it was exciting, and, you know, certainly exhilarating to get a look at a thing we made that, you know, weighs 3.5 pounds and
3.2.
Has 500 plus pictures and 100 plus recipes. It was a colossal amount of time and effort.
Now, can you both talk to me about what Dia de los Muertos means to you? Like, this must have been a really important holiday for you to write a book about it.
Yeah, Dia de Muertos, initially, I didn't really know a whole lot about it, especially when we started the project, except for some of the very most basic components of kind of what it meant. But it's come to mean a lot more to me over time. And I think it's just the most wonderful way to consider past relationships with people that have passed away, and, you know, that may or may not be at all present in any, you know, form anymore. And, you know, these past relationships, you know, can be forgotten, but this way you're memorializing someone in the most familiar way. And instead of, you know, putting up a plaque, which is a great way to memorialize somebody, it's a little more casual, in that you're inviting them into your home. You're saying, come back and visit with me again, and let's have a little party, and why don't you come to dinner? Which is really not an element in, you know, North American culture that, you know, we have typically. So I think it adds a lot to my sense of my connection with people, you know, that have family members that have passed away, that, you know, nothing else kind of works like that as far as, you know, things I was familiar with.
Yes, I mean, for me as a Mexican, you know, it's the day that we know that they're gonna come and visit you. It's the way, it's the day that you are gonna remember and honor your departed. That in a way, in a joyful way. It's never sad. I mean, it's always through food, music, things that you beloved enjoyed in life. So based on those, the premise is we're going to have a good time. We're going to remember you. You want to play some objects that person loved, that maybe we're going to share memories with the friends or the company you decide to invite that day. And some people, even it's an opportunity to, you know, to resolve little grudges or problems, or, you know, in a way, it's like an everyday you renew your memories through Dia de Muertos. So then they're always with you in a good way.
Now, I've seen a lot of the iconography of Dia de los Muertos used in like fashion and in decorating, and like all these things sold at Halloween time. Do you think it's been tribalized somewhat in our popular culture? They're taking a lot of the imagery and they're like just slapping it on stuff. Do you feel like it sometimes maybe dilutes the idea of the holiday?
Well, I think using that iconography to, you know, to decorate with is something it's not too unexpected in terms of, the trend itself, but it is something that I don't think really relates to the cultural tradition in any way, because it doesn't have anything to do with memorializing your loved ones or connecting with your past, or even the concept of like memento mori, or that we all have a certain amount of time, all those concepts that deal with death, I don't think really connect to somebody who's put a calavera on a pot holder to decorate it. It seems
that's more like the folk part of the celebration or the tradition,
right?
But it doesn't have to do anything with the meaning or even what we experience in Mexico when we were researching and living it. We didn't see any of those elements.
It's not
this year
decorative holiday in Mexico, which is kind of hard to understand, because I think here in the United States, we tend to quickly use like those kinds of iconography as decoration, because it's colorful and exotic and eye-catching. But in Mexico, you don't really see calaveras on things and sugar skulls and in fashion. I mean, certainly that's changing a bit, but
it is changing
in the places we visited and did a lot of our book research. The Dia de Muertos tradition is entirely different, and a sugar skull is certainly present there, but it's not painted on a lot of things and sold.
Halloween has a lot of similar associations. Do you think people often get them confused or kind of lump them together as one big celebration?
Well, in the United States, like speaking as somebody who's grown up here and in the US, without any familiarity, it's hard to contextualize Dia de Muertos, except that you see some skulls and it happens on Halloween. So you make some associations and figure it's some kind of extension of it. But really, they don't have much to do with one another as you examine how the celebration works and what it means. Because in Mexico and throughout the tradition of Dia de Muertos, you don't go around asking for candy and dressing up in costumes, trying to frighten people or act like spirits. It's a much more festive, much more warm and familial religious tradition.
Yeah.
And not one that's been secularized or made for other purposes. I mean, not to diminish Halloween, because I think Halloween's fantastic. It's just it really isn't any sort of connection to Dia de Muertos at all.
No, I mean, maybe the confusion comes because the days kind of overlap, dates wise, and also because I feel the same utilization of the elements that you mentioned, like the skulls and all these propaganda and commercial things have been on a way like interconnected.
Yeah.
And all about the use of the Catrinas and the painting of faces and, all those elements that are folk and new, because as any tradition, it will evolve and it's keep evolving, and it has changed even since we started the tradition up till now. And yes, I mean, it's just completely different holidays.
Now it takes place usually after Halloween though, because I know that in the Bay Area we always have celebrations for it, and it's always after November 1st. Is that correct, the time frame?
Well, in Mexico, certain parts, I mean, they start on the 31st, where the small souls arrive. The small souls and people who
And that would be like the death of a child, memorializing the death of a child.
Or somebody who died on an accident, unexpected. They call it inocentes. Like innocent, like something that happened suddenly. And then the second night is when you expect all the people, all the adults that
die of natural
causes. And that's when everybody received them on the span of the November 2nd. And there's even some other indigenous tradition that starts a week before and a week after they keep celebrating.
Yeah, so the calendar dates can shift a little depending on the region. But yeah, mostly it's celebrated on the 1st and 2nd.
First, 2nd, or 31st.
And 1st of November.
And 2nd.
Yeah.
The 3
so it
days.
can it can go 2 or 3 days depending. But yeah, we were able to experience a couple different nights of celebration when we were on our research trips, and basically picking up on what the local traditions were, and a lot of the things that were done were on 2 separate nights.
I've seen a lot of items used in the celebrations that seem fairly typical, like marigolds and copal incense. Are there other things that are usually associated with the holiday like that?
Well, what did you say? The marigolds?
Yeah, usually I see altars with marigolds on them quite a bit, and then copal incense is burned. Is that pretty typical of the holiday?
Yes, indeed. There are elements, there's always elements of nature, elements of air, elements of sanctification, since the origins is from Catholics, so they use salt, water, the candles as a way to sanctify the place, and also to drive the spirits, or to allure them to the place of the party, let's say, or the celebration where they're going to celebrate. They put these little caminos or entryways with petals, the marigold petals, but it also can be candles, or it can be just the copal or incense, that any way that you can allure your guests to the place of the altar or the ofrenda.
And then there's gifts of food, obviously.
And then there's food, obviously.
Pan de
Muerto is one of the most iconic elements, and sugar skulls as well, with the name. And each element, through the history and origins, have significance. And that's also what we talk about in the book. Like, you can learn the significance of these elements and how the meaning has been changing, or why the origin of that element into the altar.
Yeah,
or
each
ofrenda.
thing has its own purpose, and it's not evident necessarily looking at an ofrenda, which is the altar. For each of these things, there's a different meaning and a different use and a different origin.
And also,
food offerings are a big part of it, and one thing we emphasize in the book is a lot of the recipes are things that you'd eat in celebration, but also things you'd share on the altar. Tamales and the various different kinds of mole dishes, drinks. You bring mezcal, you could bring punch, or just like anything familiar to the one that's being summoned back from beyond. So there's quite a vast number of things that end up in that category when you really look at ofrendas in Mexico.
Yes, and also they're very regional. So the way you find ofrenda in Michoacán versus Oaxaca, or Estado de Mexico, Veracruz, even the Yucatan Peninsula, or if you go all the way up in Sonora, Jalisco, is extremely different. And because they celebrate of what they harvest, what is in season,
and that's also
what's
true
their
of
beliefs. In certain groups, there are different indigenous people that they were, let's say, religionized by different Jesuits or they were Franciscans or different Catholic orders. So
yeah, that makes sense.
It makes yes, it makes sense. And at the same time, when you go and you see the different ways they celebrate, then you realize why.
And you also see, speaking about marigolds, there's a couple other significant kinds of flowers that are harvested and put on the altar consistently. A red flower called coxcomb, which is somewhat less familiar if you're in North America, and then the baby's breath flowers that you often see with like a rose given with roses. Those are
gladiolas.
Gladiolas. So they cultivate
flower.
a lot of different flowers that are more indigenous to the land, but certainly grow all over in Michoacan, where we were lucky enough to photograph and capture images for our book and learn about celebrations. So
I'm visiting the fields of flowers. I mean, why they grow. There's a photo in the book when we encounter these beautiful cultivars, and it was like a row of maize, corn.
Yeah.
And then marigolds, and then the flor de obispo, which is a coxcomb, and then the white flowers, the baby's breath, and it was one row of each color. And
That's
then
beautiful.
the lady, yes, it was absolutely mesmerizing. And the lady, the farmer, that was very nice to talk to us and explain why they grow in that way. And, all these meanings that we take for granted, or sometimes we see them and we think they're just
for like something beautiful, and they are beautiful, but yeah, they connect back to a certain concept, or why is that orange significant, or that red anyway.
The book, we talk about the
we
book
spend a lot of time illustrating and talking about that, and especially the section of the book where we go into the altars and how to set up an altar in your home.
Now, can we talk about the foods that are associated? You wrote many recipes and had good photographs of these foods. Can we talk about some of the foods that are associated with Días de los Muertos?
Well,
absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, on the book, we have 112 recipes. It was extremely hard to, let's say, reduce the recipes on a way that made sense and on a way that they could be made here in the States. That was my big concern, because I could have made just a book with all these other recipes, but then nobody was going to be able to make them, right? So I tried to make recipes that were made in these regions and that are used, for Dia de Muertos, because there's special recipes that not only are offered to the people that come and visit us, but also for the people, that are in this world having fun and celebrating during the parties. So, for example, mole negro, mole amarillo from Oaxaca. Those are a very traditional moles that are made for especially those days of Dia de Muertos. And obviously they make tamales with them. All the products of the milpa, which is the harvesting days. The harvesting season, which is maize, tomato, chiles, calabaza, the squashes, and all the byproducts of that. So it's like atoles, or the porridge made of corn, several drinks with fruits and punch fruits. Obviously, tamales is like, there's gazillion. Each region has a specific tamal. Veracruz, Acahuiles, there's a special tamal made with blue masa and black beans, and it's black because it represents death, or in that specific area in Oaxaca. But again, I try to narrow down the recipes to things that you could make at home in the States, in this side. And I included also in the book some recipes like the corundas de cinco picos, which is a pentagonal tamalito that is made in Michoacan. And I learned the recipe from a traditional cook, cocinera tradicional. And those are especially made at that time of the year, again, for seasonality, and they are offered at the ofrendas and Dia de Muertos specifically. Another dish that, you know, pan de muerto has to be on the altar because that's the ofrenda, that's what it symbolized, the commune with your departed. You cut the bread, it's like, you know, communing with the souls.
Yeah, there's lots of things in the book that are made to be shared, and there are dishes that work well in the context of like a celebration where you might have guests and family get together, because that's a lot of what's done in Mexico during the holiday. But there's things that people can prepare in the book year round. It isn't exclusively about Dia de Muertos food. I mean, you could easily eat a mole dish, you know, during almost any time of the year where you want
For
something.
a birthday or other celebration. I mean, in fact, the book is like,
Yeah, it's built around these different sections, and a lot of the food in it is even something you could eat as a casual meal. I wouldn't say that's the dominant element, but we have some dishes, enchiladas and some other street foods and things that are items that people could eat very casually. But Mexico's got such a rich food tradition. It wasn't hard to find, you know, a number of different things to include. It was more a question of how can we narrow it down and include things that are more practical for the American cook, or
and also, but practical and meaningful, you know, like it wasn't that, oh no, I'm not gonna make that because I don't like it. No, I love that. But again, it was just to try to introduce with more ease the concept of Dia de Muertos, and at the same time the meanings of these foods during the celebration.
You have some really great recipes in here. I really liked, there are so many favorites of mine, like the pozole. I like the pabil. The pabil. I like to make for my kids the marinito porquito cookies. That's a favorite of mine.
Really?
Yeah. I have a little cookie cutter that's shaped like a pig that I use.
Awesome. Yes. Those were my absolutely favorite, and my mom's and my brother favorites. Yeah. So again, I decided to include them. Some of the recipes I decided to include it because thinking of, how about if somebody makes a ofrenda for me? I would love this to be at the ofrenda, you know. But also some of those breads and sweets or recipes are very iconic of Mexican traditional food. And I wanted also to be present and be part of the tradition, so people, you know, associate that, and maybe they can have a memory of their roots or their family.
Were there any that are specific to the area where you grew up? It was in Jalisco?
Well, in Jalisco, it's almost the same, because it's like Jalisco has a very strong production of maize, and also is a very rich state, culturally speaking. I mean, there's many regions, north, south, east, and you can find from people who dedicate to, how to say, ganado, like all the milk products, and then other people who grows just maize and chiles. There's an area in Jalisco that is just specifically, they grow lots of chiles. So it was hard also to just to say, this is the iconic Dia de Muertos food from Jalisco. There's many. So any byproduct of maize, like atoles, porridge, made with maize and masa, the tortillas, the tamales in their own particular way, you know, with different feelings. Pozole, I mean, pozole rojo, pozole blanco. Those are definitely foods that you will find in Jalisco at any celebration, and of course, Dia de Muertos.
Ian, I wanted to ask you, I really loved your photography in this. And when you said that you're already a photographer, it made a lot of sense. A lot of people that I've talked to that do cookbooks, either some of them just like they do the photography and it's amazing. Other times they have a learning curve with the food photography. Was there any kind of learning curves for you when doing the food photography?
Yeah, I'd say that, especially when I started in my approach to food photography, that the aesthetic aspects of staging and lighting and photographing from different angles was something that was new and really unfamiliar, because it wasn't something I've been trained on formally or had a whole lot of experience with. So when Mariana and I started to collaborate, we were able to really work on that together, to sort of create a look or a feeling that we wanted to associate with the kind of images that we used in our work. So it was a collaborative thing, and Mariana, just as much as myself, had, you know, a lot to do with the look of how images were put together and the feeling. And it is hard to shoot pictures of food in an inspired way. But we've sought to try to approach every image that we put together, you know, in these projects, especially this book, with a certain intention in mind, because it's very easy to fall into a pattern where you do everything in a very repetitive, systematic way, and that's adequately, you know, that's adequate and fine, but we've really never stopped in a pursuit of like creating mood and feeling and things that relate to the food and the tradition and the style of cooking, because
honestly,
all of those things we want to use to accentuate the quality of the picture.
And honestly, I mean, the main goal, or at least I had the main goal as being the art director of the project, of having the food as I would serve it. You know, like, how would I serve this food to my family or to Ian, or how we would eat it? Well, in the most natural, organic way. Like, yes, I'm gonna put the lettuce like this, the rabanitos, the radishes, you know. Yes, I'm gonna squeeze the lime, just in a very honest way. You know, the way serve, not a lot of chapskis around and
Well,
all these decorations.
yeah.
It's more about the food, the plate of food, like how the juiciness of the broth with the meat, and how the crema drips over the tacos and the salsas,
Yeah.
how the salsa is like squash in the molcajete. You know, that's what we wanted to capture in the foods.
A visceral feeling.
A visceral feeling, like how you
Yeah.
would feel, how the salsa would look in the molcajete when you smash the chiles, and then when you add the tomatoes and the chard, so people knows
Yeah.
what they're gonna cook, and they get excited about, you know.
And it's hard to put into, you know, a precise language exactly what you do with a camera to create that, but it is certainly a process. And, you know, just when you figure you understand exactly what to do, we introduce a new element or a new plating or a new kind of recipe, and we end up having to think and rework things, and it's exciting because it's never dull, and it certainly kept us on our toes. And
yeah, we had to even develop a language, you know, because me as a cook and as a photographer, like, I could not ask for the same terms, you know, but we developed a language so we knew that which angles would look best, or how these I don't know, this taco dorado or this plate would look more appetizing. And then Ian has an amazing manage of lighting in certain way as well, that it looks appetizing, more natural, more organic, that it doesn't look like a plastic food, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not no glamour, let's say.
We also
I
don't.
remove the glamour and just like capture the food as delicious as it can be.
Yeah. And one thing I think is worth mentioning about the presentation of the food in the book is that it's more than just, you know, looking appetizing. We ate that food.
Oh yeah.
That was our dinner, or maybe lunch even, in many cases. And when we presented it, it's not styled. I mean, it's plated certainly, but we never introduced anything that wasn't in the way it would be served on a plate to eat. So you don't see a picture of something that has been painted or given any treatment that goes outside of exactly the culinary nature of how it's made. So
in fact, there's a photo about the clemole. When I was serving it, oops, there were some drops on the tablecloth, and it was super late at night, and we were shooting, and we were so tired. We're like, okay, that's what it's gonna be, because you know what?
That sauce
when people serve these,
it's gonna happen.
I mean, it's gonna happen. I mean, it's juicy. It's gonna drip. So there's gonna be drips. Yeah. So let it be. Yeah. Just like.
Yeah, shooting food is a little more complex than I think it probably lets on the outside to an observer, because certain things are taken for granted, but
it's like there's a
very
photo,
complicated sometimes.
There's a photo on the mole preparation, and that for a minute I turned around to wash a dish. I don't remember what, and when I turned around and I stopped, you know, you always have to be moving the mole like a stirring the pot, because if not, if it sticks on the bottom, but also because if you don't, it becomes like a volcano lava.
Oh no!
It just explodes.
And then all these plop, plop, plop. Yeah. Then you have little dots all over your stove. So that happened to me during the preparation. And then I was like, you have to shoot this, because we gotta tell people, like, you have to watch this mole as like a hug. And you know, things that happen like that, but that we really wanted to portray, like, again, honest and sincerely our experiences, and that also, you know, not like a perfect world of
I mean, we wanted it to be beautiful but natural, and that's what we set about doing. And it's just, I think the volume of the number of recipes and the number of photos, it was very, very demanding. And it certainly, I think we're very grateful that, you know, we were able to spend as much time as we did putting it together. But many, many hours went into each shoot. And luckily, I think the results came out favorable, and we were really satisfied with what we put in the book.
This episode of the Well-Seasoned Librarian podcast is sponsored by the Culinary Historians of Northern California, a Bay Area educational group dedicated to the study of food, drink, and culture in human history. To learn more about this organization and their work, please visit the website at www.chnorcal.org. Do you have any favorite recipes from it? I mean, I know it's hard to say because they're all your babies, but do you have any couple of recipes you guys really love from this that's like a favorite?
Well, yeah, we do. There are some pet recipes that are kind of like, you know, favorites, and you know, I can speak for you know, my own tastes, and I personally really like pan de muerto, which wasn't, you know, familiar to me until I met Mariana, and you know, sort of experience what it's like to have it. It's a different texture and flavor of bread than we have in the States. and it's really delicious served with hot chocolate or coffee. And I really like the street enchiladas, which is a dish I had right on the streets of Pátzcuaro in Michoacan. Late at night, women were cooking on the streets with a coal-fired pan and created this really loose sort of juicy, delicious, saucy enchilada dish. And that was really fantastic. We were able to create a recipe for that, and that's in the book. And I do enjoy tamales quite a bit. I think they're really fantastic.
Who doesn't?
So there's a whole host of tamale recipes that I like the savory ones a little better than the sweet ones, I'll admit, because that's just my taste. But with just the most succulent kind of masa dough, and that just divine kind of filling of pork with sauce, they're just fantastic. So it's really easy for me to think of a few things I enjoy.
I love beans. I mean, that's my dead row meal. Like
me too.
Like frijolitos de la olla, from the pot, on a clay pot, beans that you cook on a clay pot, and just very simple dressed. And there's the recipe on the book, frijolitos de la olla. And then there's also very delicious bean soup. It's called Tarascan bean soup, and it's particular from Michoacan. That is absolutely delicious, very simple to make. And of course, moles. Mole coloradito is one of my favorites.
Yummy.
And I can go on and on and on because there's many.
And I
love also the, the ponche de Granada, which is a pomegranate punch.
Oh, nice.
In Jalisco, there's a lot of fruit punches like that, which basically is tequila and a fruit juice that have been combined, and you leave it, macerate for a couple of days, and then you drink that as an aperitif, or you can drink it after a meal with a little ice or ice crush, and it's absolutely delicious. So there's many recipes for like ponche de Granada, quince, blackberry, and mandarin, and star anise that I absolutely love too.
Yeah. These are things that I think we'd be real excited to see catch on here in the States too, because they're really delicious, and they go well as as far as party drinks go, they're as good as anything I think I've ever had. It's just a different vocabulary of flavors, but
and it's
so
very
delicious.
good because you can make it and have it on your ofrenda. And then if somebody visits, if your family arrive, you can give them a little shot or a little glass, and it's a very nice way to start the celebration.
Yeah.
I think you guys had included atole too.
Atole?
Yeah. That's a favorite of mine.
There's more than 6 recipes or 8 recipes of atoles.
Yeah. So for warm drinks, that's just tops, because it's thick and creamy and warm and very comforting.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not more popular in America. Like, it's so good. Like, why isn't it catch on here? Like, I could see it being very popular, because it is so nice in the wintertime.
And it's gluten-free, Here everybody has gluten, sometimes allergies, and that is a recipe that everybody can enjoy with any kind of milk. It will work, if it's not any of the
dairy or
alternative
non-dairy or whatever.
dairies or
there's a lot of things that I think are included in it that would be really satisfying and become a regular thing for folks who want to try different kinds of beverages and snacks and
very comforting.
Yeah,
very comforting. It's one pot situation. Just add whatever seasonal fruit, or even there's one atole that I included in the book that utilizes the braised pumpkin. This braised pumpkin is absolutely one of ofrendas in Mexico. It's called calabaza en tacha. So basically it's the pumpkin that you quarter and braised in piloncillo. You see these cones of sugar cane cones, and then cinnamon sticks, a little bit of cloves, and then you braise the pumpkin, and you have this absolutely delicious, kind of like a custardy pumpkin dessert that you can drink with milk, or since the recipe makes a lot, because depending on the size of the pumpkin you buy, but you can add that to your atole and have a pumpkin atole, which is absolutely delicious.
That sounds great.
From one recipe, you have 2 recipes, and all of a sudden,
Now, I see you guys have an impressive book collection behind you. I know the people that are listening can't see that. Do you guys have any favorite food authors that are, people that you really enjoy?
Definitely,
oh, yes.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your question? Like food writers? Yeah. I love Anthony Bourdain, of course, Jeffrey Steingart, Michael Ruhlman, Diana Kennedy.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
Yes, Alice Toklas. And then from Mexico, I love Monica Lavin and Maru Toledo, which is a absolutely amazing researcher from Jalisco that has been working for more than 18 years in all these gastronomy and culinary traditions, and is absolutely great. I mean, that for food writers. How about you, Mark?
Oh, I like Bourdain was inspirational in a lot of ways. When I read his books, I mean, they're very exciting accounts of like all these different adventures through the culinary world, and I've read like Mariana mentioned, the books of Jeffrey Steingart and how he's pursued in the past these amazing recipes of things that ordinary people would never even try to make. As far as food writers go, those are definitely my 2 top favorites.
How about you, Dan?
And do you have any particular that you're excited about?
Diana Kennedy, you mentioned. I just don't think it's enough press because she's just amazing. And there's so many great, I'm lucky I get to interview so many amazing writers, cookbook writers. And I'm going to have somebody come on like in a couple of weeks, Darina Allen from Ireland. She's got the Ballymo Cooking School. Yeah, she's coming on. She's a favorite of mine. So I kind of feel like I just feel so lucky getting to interview people. Like interviewing you guys, I feel really lucky. So this is the best thing I've ever done.
Well, we're really honored that you chose to have us on too. We're really excited to be talking to you about what we do and the food we're interested in and everything.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, this is so important, and this is such a wonderful book, and I want to promote this as much as possible. So good luck to you, and I hope this book really takes off and gets a lot of press. Yeah. So what's next for both of you guys? You guys have any other, I mean, I know that you guys just put out a book, but do you guys have any book ideas for the future or anything?
We do.
No, we're done with food. I'm exhausted. No, it's
no,
we're genuinely very excited about future propositions, and we would like to continue the adventure and work on another project, potentially Mexico or somewhere where we can take our readers through another journey, because I think for us this book has been a love letter to Mexico, and a way to hopefully help people connect to the culture and traditions of such a beautiful and wonderful place. And if we're even somewhat successful in that regard, then this book is what we wanted to produce.
And it's worth it, all the work. If for some reason we awaken the curiosity of new people for my culture, for Mexico and their tradition and their people, but also for Mexicans that are here in the States and that they would like to connect with their roots, or remember their roots, that would be amazing.
Yeah. if we're lucky,
if we're able to do that with the book.
yeah,
Or...
we would just that was sort of our ulterior, or I guess our dominant idea in a way, is, you know, sneak the culture through in the form of a cookbook, because it's one thing to present recipes, and it is a very honorable and important thing to tell people how to prepare something, but we wanted to give each of those recipes resonance through it, this gorgeous and fabulous culture with all this history and tradition that people aren't necessarily aware of, especially in the States, I think, about where these things come from, and being able to do that in the form of a book. You know, hopefully we, you know, if we're successful, we can do that again in a future project. But yeah, we're just very grateful we had the opportunity and the cooperation of so many fantastic Mexicans and people here who supported us.
Yes, and the help of our editor, Aaron Downey, who was also
very instrumental in the project.
Yeah.
Well, Mexican food is so important, and good Mexican food is just, it's phenomenal. And I've talked to all kinds of people who either they're from America and they live abroad, or they've visited America and they've gone back to, you know, their countries. Everybody says the same thing. I say, what do you miss from the United States or this region? And they always say Mexican food, real Mexican. Every one of them, like people that you see in the show that are like these chefs, and they're like, can you send me this or that? You know, yeah, I'll mail it to you, because they can't get it where they live. And people live in England, you know, they're just now getting some Mexican food, but they're still like, could you please send me some chiles and stuff like that? Because I can't get it here.
Yes, there's many stories I have of that. Like, I have one of my best friends, she went to Barcelona to do her master, and the first thing that her mother called her and said, what do you need me to send you? She was like, send me chili seeds. Yeah. I'm like, what? Yes, I'm gonna plant some chiles in the pots of my balcony, because I cannot live without chiles.
Yeah, what I think is hard to appreciate, and I've learned a great deal of about the topic in doing the research and writing the book together, was that, you know, this is a culinary tradition that's over 400 years old, and that means that these are the recipes that have been around for not 5 or 10 generations, but maybe 20 generations, who knows. Yeah. And so they've been prepared hundreds and thousands of times and evolved to a level of quality that's hard to find in just every culture's everyday food, because that cultural tradition connects with indigenous cooking and Spanish cooking, and in some cases other traditions, and the outcome is that you end up with this incredibly fabulous food that is entirely different from food elsewhere.
I mean, just tortillas and the process of nixtamalization of corn has been more than 3,000 years. And for example, tamales, I just gave a class on tamales this last December to a group of high school students. And I was telling them about that these tamales have not changed, like, you know, a lot since those times. I mean, still like the energy bar and the energy bar of the Aztecs. Or
the pre-Columbian food was fantastic before the Spanish arrived. So when I say 400 years, I just mean in terms of the mesh of those two cultures. But in reality, a lot of these things go back to periods of time that aren't very well documented. And I can certainly imagine, and a lot of food was lost in terms of, you know, when the conquistadors showed up, they didn't necessarily all want to put together a cookbook, and some of the Spanish friars were good enough to take notes, but a lot of it is speculative about, you know, exactly what was around before. Anyway, I just find that the historical aspect of it really cements a certain kind of importance of how this food is really the culmination of many generations of evolution and change.
I want to ask you one last question because I have relatives that live near Austin, so I've been to Texas before, and I've spent a lot of time around Austin. Austin's a really big food city. Do you have any favorite restaurants and places to go there in Austin?
Yeah, we have definitely have favorite places to eat, and you know, a lot of them I guess are really very different kinds of eateries. Sometimes it's Mexican, and we really like Fonda San Miguel. They have just an amazing quality of Mexican food, but you know, we'll admit to eating a lot of barbecue if we get the opportunity. And certainly I wish we could go more frequently, but Franklin barbecue is really fantastic. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had the chance to eat much Texas barbecue, but that's widely considered one of the best places to eat in the whole United States for that kind of cooking. But we indulge in a lot of different kinds of Asian food and other things too.
Yeah, there's all kinds there. It's a great town. It's just a wonderful town to visit. Well, I want to really thank you guys for being on the program. I really enjoyed getting a chance to talk to you, and I hope I get a chance to have you on here again.
Well, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you, Finn.
we've had a great time talking about food and Mexico and the book, and we really appreciate the opportunity.
Yes.
That was my conversation with Mariana Nuño Ruiz McEnroe and Ian McEnroe, authors of Dining with the Dead. This is a rebroadcast from a previous episode. I wanted to play this because it was the Day of the Dead today, and I wanted to actually have this on the actual holiday. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Mariana and Ian. Just wonderful people. I love talking to them. I feel like I've known them forever, and I just hope I get a chance to talk to them again someday because they're just wonderful. I hope I get to meet them in person. They're amazing. If you don't have the cookbook, you got to get it. It's seriously, you got to get it. Next week, I'm going to be having Emmanuel LaRoche on the program, and we had a conversation about his brand new book, Conversations Behind the Kitchen Door, 50 American Chefs Chart Today's Food Culture. This is a fabulous book, and it's really not a typical book in any way. It's a very unique departure from a lot of the food writing that we've seen. I'm excited about this book because of that, and just because it's so well written and so very important. I really think this would be a great textbook for a class on food culture and food matters. It's an indispensable book, and Emmanuel LaRoche did an amazing job. He's a great food writer, and I really just had a wonderful chance getting a chance to talk to him. I hope you all have a really great week. I hope you've had a wonderful Halloween or Day of the Dead and have been able to celebrate and have a good time with your families. Until I talk to you again next week, keep on cooking.
I've been getting